Hey everyone, friends! In today's top list, I've put together a hand-picked selection of the very best games from the entire 2025. Sure, a pretty big number of games came out over the whole year, that's true, but the ones that are really worth your attention, well, there aren't as many as it might seem. So yeah, guys, I've already done the work and gathered the best games of the whole year in this video. So I won't drag this out. Let's get right into it. Enjoy the show. Arc Raiders. Guys, in this review, I want to talk not so much about the mechanics, co-op, or gameplay, but about the overall feeling this game gives you. First of all, I just want to confess my love to everyone at Embark who was responsible for the art design, the lore, and honestly, the whole atmosphere of this game. Arc Raiders looks like a world that could only be imagined if Cymac, Lem, and Bradbury suddenly decided to co-write a retro-futuristic novel about Earth after a mechanical invasion. It's not space, not cyberpunk. It's a quiet, dusty, deeply tangible post-futurism, the atmosphere of an old future. The game is full of everyday life set against the backdrop of a grand tomorrow. Household gadgets, a half-ruined techno world, people living among the remains of a once great civilization, abandoned factories, stations, dams, spaceports, and scorched cities. You genuinely want to explore all of it. You believe in this world, and you want to stay in it. As for the arcs themselves, they create this feeling of humanity clashing with something intelligent, yet completely beyond understanding. Massive spider-like machines, patrolling drones, scouting probes descending from Earth's occupied orbit. All of them are cold and emotionless. You know, there's no sense that humans will defeat space. They're just surviving among alien machines that fell to Earth without explanation, without a message, without dialogue. I especially want to highlight the soundtrack and the sound design. Everything sounds incredible. Every noise, effect, explosion, even the ambient background during raids creates a truly immersive experience. And if you've got good headphones, you're going to get, guys, a genuine ecstasy. After spending a few dozen hours in the game, I realized I log into Arc Raiders not for tense gameplay, unpredictable encounters with other raiders, progression, or quests. No. I do it mostly for the aesthetic pleasure. It's a real audio-visual feast for the eyes and ears. Finally, it's not another tasteless clone or a faceless space opera, but something truly fresh, new, captivating, and mesmerizing. And this is Hollow Knight, Silksong. Without exaggeration, the main AA game of this entire 2025, at least according to many journalists, players, and modest little me. It was thanks to the original that I discovered the genre of hardcore Metroidvania and completely fell in love with this bug-filled world. And you know, friends, I waited for the sequel every single year, even despite the complete lack of a clear release date. And finally, it happened. The best Metroidvania, not just of this year, but of many long years, has finally released. It brings us a story not only of the main heroine, but of another insect kingdom that has fallen into ruin, just like Hallownest, only for entirely different reasons. Every location is pure delight for the eyes. The few bugs who've managed to keep their sanity feel like a warm encounter in a hostile world. And every enemy is, without sarcasm, a true challenge. Yes, we have to admit, at launch the game had balance issues. Even regular enemies could knock off 2 HP, and bosses spammed minions with completely random trajectories. And oh boy, how many gamepads were broken because of that downward strike that suddenly hits to the side? Probably too many to count. But you know what, friends? I love this game, even after 80 hours. Even after fully completing it, I still enjoy coming back just to wander through the majestic halls of the Fallen Kingdom. The developers took the perfect formula from the original, and not only avoided ruining it in the sequel, they improved and refined it to the maximum. With selectable game modes, character upgrades, quests, and secondary characters, so despite the difficulty, I strongly recommend giving it a try. It's absolutely worth it. Dispatch. An absolutely unexpected discovery for me at the very end of the year, from Ad Hoc Studio, founded by veterans of Telltale. And yet the game looks nothing like the classic interactive dramas. Yes, it's a story about superheroes, but it's not about flashy spectacle or loud heroism. It's about the people inside that system and how painfully hard it can be for them. We play as Robert Robertson, nicknamed Mecha Man, a guy who wasn't born with powers but inherited a combat suit from his father. In the prologue, he tries to settle the score with the main villain, Shroud, but ends up defeated, losing his suit, his fame, and honestly, his entire sense of purpose. And then, broken, cynical, he gets hired as a dispatcher for the Phoenix program, where washed-up superhumans are given a chance to return to life by saving others. He becomes an operator supervising active superheroes, gets a shot at earning back the right to be a hero, and maybe fixing his mecha suit again. Already here, it becomes clear that this game isn't a parody, and not just another adaptation of a TV show. It's a genuinely strong, author-driven work. The main thing that sets it apart is that the player is not the hero, but the person who conducts the heroes. The dialogues, my respects, friends, as well as the interactions between the incredibly charismatic characters are simply top tier. The story as a whole turned out mature, cool, heartfelt, something rare in today's stale genre. Visually, Dispatch is stunning, done in the style of a high-end animated series with smooth animation and a vibrant color palette. The scene direction is thought out to the smallest detail. Camera movement, framing, editing, everything makes the dramatic moments genuinely emotional. The attention to detail gives the feeling that you're watching a high-quality Netflix animated film. Dispatch is an amazing game that absolutely won me over. It's an incredibly heartfelt story about broken people, delivered with tons of funny jokes, witty banter, and fantastic dark humor that never slips into trashiness but sets a truly mature tone. And the characters' charisma. That's just something else. You follow them like they're family. Personally, I'm eagerly waiting for the next seasons, and I strongly recommend, friends, that you don't overlook this game. The Outer Worlds 2. A sequel that didn't necessarily become bigger, but definitely became better. Obsidian once again sends us to the edge of space, a place where, behind the facade of corporate slogans, people, ideals, and plain old common sense slowly rot away. You play as an agent of Earth's directorate who lost his team and 10 years of his life after being betrayed. The world around you is cracking at the seams. 3 factions are tearing each other apart for power, and spatial rifts loom on the horizon, threatening to destroy the entire star system. The setup isn't exactly on the level of Mass Effect, of course, but the story holds strong thanks to genuinely interesting dialogues. The game itself feels like an old-school RPG where every single skill point carries real weight and importance. The progression actually limits you. You can't be an engineer, a diplomat, and a thief all at once. Every decision in dialogue, every trait, every weakness changes quest outcomes for real. Not just by adding a pointless extra line for show. The world reacts to you by the true rules of the genre. To some, you're a hero, to others a threat, and most often you're both at the same time. Yes, bugs still pop up here and there, and optimization isn't always perfect, but everything else? This is one of those games where you want to explore every location, read every note, and test how far the consequence system is willing to go. Obsidian may not have made their most large-scale game, but they've made a truly captivating RPG. And in our time, that's honestly becoming a rare treasure. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Well, what can I say? The game of the year, and not just in my opinion, but according to many award shows as well. Though, honestly, it's hard for me to single out one game from this whole video for such a title. Here, 33 runaway developers from Ubisoft made a game that they could have never dreamed of creating there. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not belittling the people who work at Ubisoft. Quite the opposite. The fact that such a small group that left managed to create something like this only proves how many talented people are there. But they're like birds in a cage, unable to spread their wings, fly, and truly create. That's the problem with big corporations. The leadership completely loses the desire to listen to us, ordinary gamers, all in favor of shareholders and the chase for profit. So what do I want to tell you about this game? Honestly, it's even hard to call it a game. It's literally a piece of art designed to give us, the players, pure enjoyment. Enjoyment from absolutely everything. from the magnificent visuals and genuinely good optimization. And mind you, this is despite Unreal Engine 5. Well, dear AAA developers, take notes. This is how it can be done. From the beautiful, alive characters you can't help but empathize with, from the enchanting classical music, and from the world that is both terrifying and mesmerizing at the same time. And the story, friends. That's the pinnacle of creativity, something that's honestly hard to describe with words. At first, everything seems like, the drunken ramblings of a French sailor who fell asleep in a coastal bar. But then, when I got slapped with a plot twist at the end of the first chapter, and then another one at the end of the second, you start thinking about the meaning of existence itself. And then you reach the ending. Or rather the endings. You just sit there for 5 minutes, staring blankly at the screen, trying to process the depth of those depths. I want to thank the developers from the bottom of my heart. You didn't just make a game, you created real art, no matter how grand that may sound. You can see it, you can feel it. Thank you for the atmosphere, for the honesty, for putting your soul into this. Friends, this is one of those games after which you are no longer the person you were before. Play it, and then you'll understand exactly what I meant. Battlefield 6. The return of DICE to the classic formula of the series. The one fans had been asking for so many long years. After the disastrous 2042, the studio went silent to refocus on what had always worked. A clear class system, massive firefights, and full environmental destruction. The game once again unfolds in a modern setting. No futuristic gadgets, no crazy weather experiments, and definitely no ridiculous skins like Beavis and Butthead from Call of Duty. Instead, you get familiar maps, vehicles, and weapons. And it all feels like Battlefield 3 or 4. Destruction has become more realistic. Lighting and particles look natural, and optimization finally allows you to play without frame drops even on older PCs. Gameplay-wise, it feels like a true return to roots. The very reason fans fell in love with Battlefield in the first place. Teamwork matters again, and classes actually feel different. The engineer handles vehicles and places mines, support heals and supplies the squad with ammo, assault charges into the fight, and the sniper covers everyone from afar. The maps became more compact and more layered, which prevents battles from turning into chaotic shootouts like in 2042. Instead, they genuinely require tactics and even knowledge of the terrain. The campaign, however, is still just a formality. It's your typical save-the-world special ops story that you can easily skip without losing much. Honestly, friends, I'll admit, the campaign didn't grab me at all. I'd treat it more like a guidebook and a warm-up for beginners. But the multiplayer, now that is the real Battlefield we've been waiting for. It's not perfect, sure, but it brings the series back its face and delivers that very feeling fans have been craving for almost 20 years. And finally, we got it. After many years of rumors and a full change of studios, Bloodlines 2 finally released. Not quite in the form fans of the original dreamed of, but still solid enough to pull us back into the grim world of darkness. We wake up in the body of an ancient vampire known as the Nomad, awakened after a centuries-long slumber in the winter Seattle of 24. The hero remembers almost nothing, but there's a strange mark on his hand, and in his head echoes the voice of a dead detective from the Malkavian clan. Together, they unravel a conspiracy that's breaking the balance of power in the city, while the new vampire prince holds onto the throne through fear alone. Bloodlines 2 is no longer an RPG in the traditional sense. It's more of a partially linear story-driven adventure with first-person action, though yes, there are still some role-playing elements. Combat blends dodging, parrying, and vampiric abilities you can mix across clans, from the brute strength of the Bruja to the illusion weaving of the La Sombra. The story alternates between the Elder's night raids and detective segments, where you can even talk to objects, giving the game this nice, noir undertone. Yes, Seattle here isn't an open world, and it's far from technically perfect. But you know what, guys? It's genuinely interesting to be in, to walk around, to explore. The game doesn't try to recreate the cult formula of the original, but it does remind us why this dark world keeps pulling us back, again and again. Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. This game is, one of those hidden gems. I'm pretty sure a lot of people haven't even heard about it, and it probably just slipped right past you. But honestly, it's a wonderful RPG in the spirit of those good old games. It's a blend of Skyrim, Gothic, Fable, Dark Messiah, and so on. It feels like that classic, warm-in-the-soul RPG we all remember fondly. For me, this game turned out to be a brilliant discovery of 2025. Not only does it take everything we love from other action RPGs, but it's also incredibly original, with a very interesting lore and storyline. Aside from, its slightly weak technical condition, it's honestly really hard to find any major flaws. Probably only the third act, that one came out really weak. At some point, you even forget the game had anything to do with Arthurian legends because suddenly you're doing quests helping different tribes, and overall the whole third act just feels like it's not even from the same game. But you know what? It makes sense. There are very few games where the third act keeps the same level of quality as the previous ones. Still, I wanted to point that out for you. Besides, its price of $20 and the time you spend on it pay off completely in the first act alone. And by the second act, you're already thinking about donating all your money to the developers, just so they never stop working on this world. Overall, guys, the game is fantastic. I couldn't believe that in our time you can just create something from nothing and end up with a project that's miles above everything we've been getting for the last 5 years. The music, the design, the setting, the story, the characters, the dialogues, the quests, everything here is top-notch. As for the downsides, I'll repeat, a weak third act and a weak technical state, and maybe a few questionable moments in the location design, but again, this is all a matter of taste. So here's the verdict. If you're a fan of action RPGs, especially the ones in the style of The Elder Scrolls, Dark Messiah, or Gothic, you absolutely cannot skip this game. You're going to love it, that's 200%. And on top of that, it costs way less than some of the new releases out there. Ghost of Yotei. This is a direct continuation of Ghost of Tsushima, but this time bringing the action to the northern lands of Japan at the foot of Mount Yotei. The main heroine, Atsu, returns home 16 years after her family's death and sets out to take revenge on the people responsible for that tragedy. The story mostly follows familiar patterns. Another tale of vengeance, another journey of self-discovery, and another reminder that revenge is for the weak. But still, the presentation is absolutely top tier. Cutscenes are carefully directed, the characters feel alive, and the world delights with its atmosphere. Dense forests, flooded villages, and snow-covered temples look like they were lifted straight from Japanese woodblock prints. And aside from the atmosphere, I simply have to highlight the graphics, guys. They're just stunning. I think you can see that for yourselves. Exploring the world has genuinely become more interesting, with unnecessary markers gone. Activities now open up naturally, through rumors, smoke from campfires, or conversations with companions. But the main strength of the game is, of course, the combat system. The developers kept the familiar foundation of Ghost of Tsushima, but added so much more weaponry and options. Now we have a whole arsenal, like a weapon museum of that era. You can disarm an enemy, throw your blade at them, fire a gun, or call in a battle wolf for assistance. The weapon and vulnerability system has become genuinely deeper, and finishing moves look both spectacular and incredibly bloody. World exploration has also been revitalized. Now the world truly reacts to your actions. You can fish, cook, or engage in simple mini-activities like playing coin games or forging swords using your DualSense gyro. And even though the game doesn't offer anything truly new, it still feels like a very solid continuation. And yes, I'll repeat, the game looks absolutely gorgeous. So overall, friends, in my opinion, Ghost of Yotei is really good, and I highly recommend playing it, especially if you enjoyed Ghost of Tsushima. This installment will give you just as much, if not more, thrill and satisfaction. Death Stranding 2. On the Beach. The second Death Stranding picks up the legacy of Kojima's legendary project, blending philosophy that borders on full-on madness, action, and of course, logistics. This time, the protagonist Sam Bridges returns to explore new territories where humanity is trying to survive after yet another disaster. The world still looks just as gorgeous in high contrast. Deserted beaches, scorched plains, and churl rain create this vibe of complete hopelessness. But where the first game was true, mysticism with a dash of mystery, the second one becomes a bit simpler, and overall way clearer when it comes to lore. So the mystique of the first chapter steps aside for the gameplay, and that heavy feeling of loneliness gets swapped out for light hints and more dialogue. Overall, the gameplay is simpler, but a lot more energetic when it comes to action. The courier challenges, the very heart of the first game, move into the background. Now, Sam Bridges uses firearms much more often, and stealth tricks rely on a whole bunch of gadgets. The logistics simulator vibe is mostly gone, and big cataclysms like earthquakes and fires show up rarely and almost don't affect the process anymore. The sequel kind of tries to be more of a shooter in the style of Metal Gear Solid, but without the story depth of the first game. Though honestly, this approach might work even better for players who prefer straight action over heavy narrative meaning. Yeah, the core essence of the original Death Stranding has faded a bit, but overall it's still an incredibly beautiful game with a pretty unusual Kojima-style story. Naturally, there's no way we could skip Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 in a lineup like this. The game that brings us right back into the very heart of medieval Bohemia. And agree with me, it's the same realistic RPG world, but now it's wider, livelier, and richer in detail. Once again, we step into the shoes of the blacksmith's son, Henry, pulled into political intrigue, betrayal, and the heavy duty of serving his lord. The story picks up the thread from the first game immediately, diving straight into a new war for power. And this time, the developers seriously improved optimization, graphics, and added forging, the crossbow, and even artillery. Visually, Kingdom Come 2 looks like a historical postcard. Every tiny detail feels lifted straight from actual chronicles. The game's graphics are unbelievably beautiful. The sequel also became way more friendly to players. Combat got simpler and, I'd say, a lot clearer. Fewer strike directions, less confusion, but way more satisfaction from duels and fights. Quests stopped feeling like mechanical errands. Now every choice carries consequences. There are way more possible playthroughs, and the entire world feels much more alive. Peasants gossip about all kinds of rumors, and a random argument or a heated exchange with a stranger can even turn into a duel. So yeah, my friends, this is a prime example of a proper sequel, where the previous game finally becomes a fully formed story. Everything here still demands patience from you, but if you ever dive into this historical world, trust me, you won't be able to leave until you've lived through it to the end. In the historical RPG genre, this is an unquestionable 10 out of 10. And I'm pretty sure once you finish it, you'll 100% agree with me. Dying Light the Beast. There's a lot of returns to classics this year, and this game brings us back to Kyle Crane, a hero we all thought we had said goodbye to forever. It's been 13 years and now he's become half monster himself, a human turned into an experimental hybrid. The story is built entirely around revenge. The developers promised to return to the roots of the first game. More horror, less heroic bravado, more fear of the night. And yeah. Castor Woods, the new location inspired by Twin Peaks, throws us straight into this anxious, dark, and rotten world. But I gotta give them credit. Even though this world is rotten, it still looks really beautiful. The beast hooks you pretty well, at least because you can feel the heartbeat of the original Dying Light in it. Crane, by the way, can now transform into a beast, tear enemies apart with his bare hands, and use mutation as a weapon. The devs still know how to create the right atmosphere, and the beast isn't some brand new reinvention of the series. It's more like a nostalgic sigh, but with really good, thick air to breathe. The Prison. And here we've got a pretty unusual sandbox. One that basically drops us into an isometric world straight out of the first or second GTA. Only this time we're not playing as a car thief, but as a cop. You'll be handling all kinds of police work. from handing out parking tickets to high-speed chases and shootouts. The game takes place in 1983 in the fictional city of Averno, inspired by 80s New York with that full-on noir vibe. You play as Nick Cordello Jr., a rookie cop whose father, the former police chief, was murdered under mysterious circumstances. The protagonist patrols the streets of Averno, fighting criminals while also digging into his father's murder. The story is told through static 2D portraits with dialogue and all the classic tropes from police dramas. You choose your patrol type, on foot, by car, and later on you even get your own helicopter. Crimes here are generated completely at random, from tiny stuff to big, serious cases. And the funniest part, you actually have to follow protocol, read suspects their rights properly, fill out paperwork, and all of that adds a huge dose of immersion. So yeah, guys, if you love the noir genre, and if you remember the first and second GTA and loved them, then I seriously recommend giving The Precinct a try. Titan Quest 2. Well, in spirit, this is the same old Titan Quest we've loved for years. Run, smash, loot, all of it wrapped in ancient Greek mythology. What else do you need to be happy, right? So far, I'm loving the game from top to bottom, starting with the sound design, the feel of the controls, the visuals, the smooth progression, and the well-built skill branches that don't overload you or trigger a panic attack just by looking at them. And the authentic ancient-style presentation, from the environment to the UI, is just chef's kiss. It genuinely makes you smile. If I give you a short squeeze summary, here's what I really liked. Small enemy packs, which is great because I'm tired of full-screen swarms of mobs like in Path of Exile. Clean, pleasant graphics that don't blast your eyes with information noise but still look detailed and polished. The skill system seems pretty bare bones at first glance, but every ability has a ton of modifiers that combine really well and reinforce each other. Plus, you can choose multiple schools, which gives you a whole lot of room for imagination and experimentation. The first boss fight I reached made it very clear. Even mini-bosses here won't just roll over and hand you their loot. You'll have to sweat for it, and that's absolutely a big plus. About optimization, I wouldn't say it's as terrible as some people claim, but yeah, it's far from ideal right now. Still, you can chalk that up to the early access. Everything else? The game gives you exactly what you expect from classic Titan Quest. Definitely recommending it, friends, especially for such a low price on Steam. And now, the seriously overlooked the first Berserker, Kazan. A really unusual action RPG with a clear, Souls-like backbone in its gameplay. You play as Kazan, a legendary general of the Palos Empire who once, together with his friend, killed the dragon Hismor and saved the entire world. But here comes the twist. Instead of honor and recognition, the local emperor, out of pure jealousy, obnoxiously accuses Kazan of treason, slices his tendons, and throws him into a freezing wasteland. Half dead, Kazan makes a pact with the Phantom Blade, this horrifying spirit from the underworld that grants him supernatural power. You could say Kazan basically made a deal with the devil. And from there, the bloody revenge begins against everyone who betrayed him. So yeah, friends, the story is pure classic mythology. The hero falls and then returns stronger, ready to get his revenge. You're looking at a full 85 hours of campaign. The combat is a mix of Souls-like systems, but with its own twist. You've got 3 weapon types: a heavy 2-handed sword for brutal, crushing attacks, fast twin blades for whirlwind strikes, and a spear for lightning-quick, piercing thrusts. Each weapon has its own skill tree where you unlock new attacks, combos, and various passive perks. As for the visuals, the graphics are stunning, by the way, with excellent optimization. A cel-shaded anime-style look, snowy Orda peaks, mines, dragon ruins. Everything looks gorgeous and very unique. And the final boss, honestly, it's a straight-up piece of art. Friends, if you love Souls-like games or the Nioh series, don't even think about skipping this one. And honestly, if you've never played in this genre, this might be the perfect place to start, because Kazan is genuinely phenomenal. No rest for the wicked. If you didn't know, guys, this game was made by the creators of Ori, and those folks have always been absolute masters of atmosphere and style. Here you're getting a dark mix of RPG, action, and isometric Souls-like gameplay, all wrapped in a gorgeous story, a twisted world, deep progression systems, and insanely beautiful graphics with stunning stylization overall. Every location feels alive. The day-night cycle, the constantly shifting weather, rain, wind that makes the grass, plants, and trees sway. All of this adds a huge layer of immersion. I also really loved how the character controls feel, and honestly, it resembles Souls-like games quite a lot. You've got dodges, parries, you have to land your hits with proper timing. And at moments, the game even reminded me of Monster Hunter. You feel the weight of your armor, the heft of your weapon, so every time you swap your gear, it takes a moment to adjust to its weight so you can dodge properly. Every enemy type has its own attack patterns you need to learn, and sometimes you even have to memorize fight phases to survive. So yeah, guys, No Rest for the Wicked is insanely beautiful, atmospheric, with a super interesting story and pretty hardcore combat. I seriously recommend giving it your attention. Mandragora Whispers of the Witch Tree. This is a dark action RPG that absolutely deserves to stand on the same shelf as Hollow Knight, the Ori duology, and Dark Souls. Mandragora looks, sounds, and plays phenomenally. It's a perfect example of how Souls-like mechanics and Metroidvania design can blend into one flawless mix. From the Souls-like side, you've got a stat-based progression system where your damage scales from your character's attributes depending on your class, plus souls, campfires, dodge rolls, and parries. From the Metroidvania side, you get smart, interconnected level design, an incredibly beautiful 2D, tons of secrets, and optional bosses scattered everywhere. A quick rundown of the story. You play as an Inquisitor in the world of Foldum, where humanity hides behind walls while monsters devour everything outside. You're sent on a journey through rifts in reality to ignite a witchlight lantern and stop the unraveling of the world. You're looking at 40 hours of non-linear story with choices that shape both the hero and the world, and a full 60 quests where every decision affects the plot and the ending. Combat is tough, again very Souls-like, but everything is clear, dodge, parry, hit with proper timing. The game features 75 locations packed with secrets. There's also a huge crafting, alchemy, and cooking system tied to the resources you get from monsters and gather in the world, plus talents and skills, over 200 of them, giving you complete freedom to build your character however you want. And visually, for this genre, it looks stunning. So yeah, guys, this is a true gem. Basically a AAA Souls Metroidvania. Games with this level of quality and detail come out once every few years, so seriously, don't skip this one. Friends, thank you so much to everyone who watched this video all the way to the end. Sending you all a big hug, wishing you the best, and yeah, a huge thank you to everyone who supports me, hits the like button, and subscribes. Massive thank you to you guys. And remember, games are great, really great. But don't forget about the people close to you. Alright, bye-bye. See you soon.